The break statement is a powerful tool for controlling the flow of your program. It is used to immediately terminate the current loop, such as a for loop or a while loop, or a switch statement. When a break statement is encountered, the program's execution jumps to the statement immediately following the terminated structure. This helps in avoiding unnecessary iterations, thus improving the performance of your code. Here we have a for loop that iterates from 0 to 9. Inside the loop, there is an if condition that checks if the value of I is equal to 5. If it is, the break statement is executed, and the loop terminates immediately. Otherwise, the value of I is printed to the console. Let us see some examples of how the break statement can be used. First, consider a while loop. Here we have a function called findTarget, which initializes an array of numbers and a counter I. The while loop continues as long as I is less than the length of the numbers array. Inside the loop, there's a condition that checks if the current number is equal to 3. If it is, the break statement is executed, exiting the loop. Next, let's look at a switch statement. The function processStatus takes a status as an argument. The switch statement checks the status. If the status is success, it prints OK, and then the break statement terminates the switch block. If the status is error, it prints failed, and the break statement terminates the switch block. Labels in JavaScript provide identifiers for specific loops or code blocks. They allow us to have precise control over which loop we want to exit from when we have nested loops or complex control flows. The basic format is label name, followed by the statement. Here's how it looks in a nested loop. We have an outer loop with the label outer loop, and an inner loop with the label inner loop. Inside the inner loop, there's a condition that checks if I is 1 and j is 1. If this condition is true, we execute the break statement with the outer loop label, which will terminate the outer loop immediately as well. If the condition is false, then the values of I and j will be printed on the console. Let's explore how labels with break statements are beneficial. Consider a function findInMatrix that searches for a target within a two-dimensional array. We've labeled the outer loop as matrix search. The code iterates through the rows and then the columns of the matrix. When the target is found, its coordinates are printed, and we immediately break out of the matrix search loop. This prevents unnecessary checks in the rest of the matrix. Another scenario would be in nested event handling. Here we have a labeled block called processEvents. If there are no events or if the events array is empty, we exit this block. Then it iterates through the array of events. If an error is found, it's logged, and we immediately break out of the processEvents block. If there is no error, then further processing will take place. The continue statement is another flow control mechanism in JavaScript. It skips the remaining code in the current iteration of the loop and proceeds to the next iteration. Unlike break, it does not exit the loop entirely. Continue is beneficial when you want to filter elements or bypass specific cases in a loop without terminating the entire process. For example, in a for loop that iterates from 1 to 5, we use the continue statement to skip even numbers. When I is even, the continue statement is executed, and it goes to the next iteration, thus only the odd numbers will be processed and the message, processing along with the value of I will be printed on the console. Let's see where continue is used in real-world scenarios. In the processors function, it iterates through an array of users. If a user is not active, the continue statement skips the rest of the code and proceeds to the next user, thereby processing only the active users. We will call the notification and update stats function for active users only. Also, we can use labels with continue statements. Consider the outer loop with an inner loop. If I is equal to 1 and j is also equal to 1, we continue to the next iteration of the outer loop using the continue outer loop statement, skipping the rest of the inner loop. If the condition is not met, then it prints the values of I and j on the console. Here are some best practices for using break, continue, and labels. Use break when you need to completely exit a loop or switch statement. Use continue to bypass unwanted iterations and improve loop performance. Use labels for breaking or continuing from nested loops. Avoid using labels if a simple break or continue will work just as well. Don't use these statements in loops that require critical cleanup code. The break statement is used for early exits from loops when a target is found. It's also used in switch statements to control the flow of execution. The continue statement is ideal for filtering unwanted items in loops, skipping complicated processing steps, and continuing the structure while bypassing certain cases. Finally, labels are helpful for managing complex nested loop control and targeting specific loops in complex structures. If you like this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Visit CodeLucky.com for more such useful content.